Hello, Alleyway Conversation listeners. Once again, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Patrick, and we got a buddy.
Yeah, this is Levi.
Hello, people.
And you are here for our very first ever Part 2.
Yeah.
We finished off last time getting ready to talk about a video game series that is not the longest running series, but still goes on for quite some time.
Stuff that we liked, and we know you like something that we couldn't talk about video game series without, that we honestly just don't know a whole lot about.
And that would be, I know some of you were waiting, Resident Evil.
Been going on since 1996.
Yeah.
When the first one was made.
I was about to say, the very first one came out on the PS1, didn't it?
Yeah. Came
I
out.
actually did play that one a little bit, but then Silent Hill came around, and I got way too wrapped up in that.
And see, the first thing I ever played was Resident Evil 4. A friend of mine, Tyler, he had it. He had a GameCube. And I think I sat down, beat it out in a weekend, and I've loved it ever since.
Well, and that was actually a big thing for me, is that I ended up borrowing it from another friend. I think that was Brian. But I ended up playing it for a while, and then I'm like, well, this isn't the Resident Evil that I loved back when I was a kid. It's totally different now.
Funny thing is, like, of all the ones I've played, 4 is the ones I've played the least. And the other weird thing about it is, 4 itself had an impact in the entire gaming world that no other game I can say has ever had. The whole over-the-shoulder cam and movement, started with Resident Evil 4.
Yeah,
no other game had done that before.
Well, and that's
like
what
that.
ended up making, like,
And that's why it
Gears
was
of
so
War
good.
and stuff like that.
Huh. We'll see. I never played... I know 4 was the massive turning point, because before that it was more of an adventure game.
Yeah.
4 and afterwards it was more of a... It got to be really more of a shooting game, which really wasn't what Resident Evil started out with.
Yeah.
No, they were definitely in for, and I wouldn't just say the jump scares. It was meant to be like visually terrifying.
Oh yeah.
Kind of like what Silent Hill tried to be.
No, if
It's what
they did a
Silent
better
Hill
job.
Succeeded at, yeah.
They did a better job at being horrifying. The thing with Silent Hill that I know of, as I said, I'm not an expert on those games, is they they went a lot more into spiritual stuff, and Resident Evil was all completely scientific stuff. Yeah. Although it wasn't originally.
I mean,
the original Resident Evil 2 was supposed to be what turned into Devil May Cry.
Oh,
really?
Mm-hmm.
That'd be cool.
Wow.
I did like Devil May Cry.
And they had to, they were still going to do 2 character stories, but neither one of them were like really in any way related to the characters in the first one.
Well, I know right after 4, I don't know if it came out right before or right after Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 0. It's like, okay, we're making 2 games.
Yeah.
1, 0, which followed the traditional format more,
Yeah.
and then 4, which changed it up. I'm assuming they probably threw that out there to see what way to send the series in the future.
Yeah.
Well,
I actually did like Resident Evil 0, so...
Yeah, they were both successful, actually.
Yeah.
I would say 4 was more so, but 0 gave you the very beginnings of, well, the incidents that happened in Raccoon City. It was little before, and just touched on the mansion incident that you see in Resident Evil 1. I mean, the main character, one of the main characters, Rebecca, she is one of the characters who's also in Resident Evil, the original game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And she plays a vital part in it, but you never actually play as her, really.
Yeah, not until 0, which is like one of those prequels that ends up in the middle of the series.
Yeah.
Right. Well, because Resident Evil 5, which is the one we've probably played the most, because it was the first Resident Evil game that I'm aware of that did multiplayer.
Yeah.
And it did it really well, I thought.
Yeah, we did play a little bit of that, and I did have fun with it.
But I've played that game so much.
Well, you, me, Carl, we've beat it on every difficulty. We've gotten all the costumes, we've gotten all the guns unlocked, upgraded everything. I'm not gonna say it's the game I put the absolute most time into. That's quickly turning into Elden Ring, but it is definitely something I have spent years playing, and I've bought it on the 360, the PS4, the Xbox. I've bought it on quite a few systems.
Yeah, I've put a lot of hours into that game. There's only a few others I would say that may have more. I mean, Dark Souls 3, I've probably put 600-700 hours into that game.
And more than half of that just into a single character.
Yeah.
Kind of the same way with Fallout 4. I know you keep on telling yourself, yeah, one more thing, and then by the time you realize it, it's dawn.
Right. We did the exact same thing yesterday. We were playing Fallout 6. It's an interesting game.
Far Cry 6, by the way.
What did I say?
Fallout
6.
Hey, we're hopeful for a Fallout. Well, I mean, I'd be happy with a Fallout 5 just to see where the series is going.
I'm looking forward to Fallout New London. It's not going to happen, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, has any Fallout game taken place outside of America?
Well, no, simply because, Vault-Tec is an American company, and without Vaults, there's really no Fallout series.
Okay.
But I also think they can't be the only ones who set up something like that.
They might be the only ones that were that blatantly evil, though.
We don't know that either.
I mean, giant corporations.
It's suggested, but not.
Yeah, pretty much every company I'm aware of in the series is evil, except for maybe Vim.
Kind of like, actually, in Resident Evil, it's like, oh, you got the Umbrella Company doing all these things, and then it's like, oh, Wolf Farmer's going to take their stuff and we're going to make it better, except for they actually don't, and they make it worse, and then Tricel's like, we're going to pick that up and make it better, but we're actually behind the scenes making it worse.
Don't all of them get bought by Umbrella? They're just shell companies?
No, Umbrella gets basically eliminated. They go to court and they lose a ton of court cases and an astronomical amount of money, and then Oswald Spencer, the owner of the company, at the end, because it started with 3 guys, but he had them
executed,
murdered under suspicious circumstances.
Wesker.
Yeah. And then
Wesker does.
He eventually goes into hiding because of it, because he's a wanted man, and Wesker finds him and kills him
because he thinks he's a god, even though he's just a clone of. He's not even the original Wesker.
Yeah.
Well, that is kind of some weird stuff to get into. But so Spencer, he's hiding because he's a wanted man. Wesker goes and kills him because he had some reason to go to his mansion anyway. He had to get some information from him, but he kills him, and it's coincidentally Chris and Jill show up, and they get into a fight, and Chris lives, and Jill and Wesker are assumed dead, and they're not.
Yeah. I don't know. The more I hear about it, the more it kind of reminds me of what happened to the Nazi scientists after World War II. All the other countries are like, okay, well, we're going to grab these people. Now, what you did for that evil corporation, do for us.
What was that, the Paperclip Project or whatever?
I think
Something
so.
like
I can't remember. Yeah, we brought in a bunch of Nazi scientists, and we're like, as long as you work for the U.S. government, and basically, you're imprisoned, but in a really big warehouse.
What was that guy's name, the guy who developed the V2 rocket or whatever? Because he was... he's the one who helped us get to the moon, actually.
Yeah, he helped massively with the lunar project, and it was the Neptune rockets, I believe.
Gosh, I cannot
remember. I always thought it was kind of cool. There was Dr. Josef Mengele, who was... Cool name. It is a really cool name, but he's a very bad man.
Oh, yes.
He experimented. He was a doctor for the Nazis. He did a whole lot of really gruesome experiments for twins.
I know who you're talking
about. Yeah,
he's
the guy that did that infamous photo of the refugees, not refugees, the prisoners sewed together and shit.
Right. Was he the one that tried to basically see if you did something to one twin, the other one would be psychically connected to them and stuff?
Yeah, he did that too.
Oof.
Anyways, after World War II, a lot of Nazis who actually ended up escaping ended up going to South America, and there's a city in Argentina that is known for being the capital of twins. There are more twins per capita in this city than anywhere else.
Coincidence? I think not.
Yeah, a little bit suspicious.
Yeah, just a little. But Resident Evil,
Right. We're talking about fake evil corporations.
Well, speaking of twins, though, in Resident Evil Code Veronica, there's a weird setup of twins. Not Alfred. I think it is Alfred and Alexia. They're twins, and they have the Veronica virus, which is it's a changed version of the T virus. They first infect their father with it. They punish him for, gosh, I cannot remember what the reason is for that. But, because he had developed them in a lab.
Oh.
They're twins, but they were developed in a lab. kind of like the Wesker Project. But
Okay.
so you got these two kids, and one of them doesn't really do a whole lot until the actual game comes up. But the other one, Alexia, she gets put into a frozen, basically vault type deal, and injected with the Veronica virus so her body can adjust to it, because they had experimented on their father, and when their father got it, he turned into a grotesque monster.
So is this kind of like, because I know a lot of times when people get infected with this super mutagen on the everything other than the T virus, it seems like they go through this rapid change, which gives them immense strength, but also a glaring weakness.
So the father doesn't have a super glaring weakness, except for he's basically at this point retarded. But so she's like, I'm going to be frozen essentially for 15 years, so my body can adapt to the virus, and it works.
And basically keeps
Yeah.
her human, I'm assuming.
Yeah, she can transform into this kind of weird butterfly type deal. But before that, she's able to psychically control plants. She can cut herself, and her blood basically sets things on fire.
Whoa.
Yeah, she's a tough mother. Like, there's a scene where it shows her fighting Wesker at the when she first encounters him, and Wesker's he already has the virus that allows him to basically teleport and gives him super strength, and she's beating the hell out of him essentially.
Ooh.
And well. he oh gosh, it's pretty funny actually. So Chris happens to walk in at this point, and keep in mind Chris and Wesker hate each other, and he's like, oh Chris, my best man, I'll let you deal with this. And Wesker basically goes.
It's like, peace out, my homie.
Yeah.
Wait, no,
Later.
I'm not affiliated with
And
that
you
man.
have to fight Alexia as Chris, and somehow without the super speed and strength you win. But not, like, she's not over until later on she turns into a massive butterfly. And you happen to find a weapon that just so happens to be developed to kill people like her. Which was developed by her father because he knew she would do this.
Right.
Like, there's a video that you watch as the character, and it's like, yeah, he essentially is like, I'm sorry that you guys have to go through this, but you're going to have to use this weapon because my daughter's kind of gone insane with the Veronica virus. This will destroy the Veronica virus. So he developed a gun to kill his daughter after before his daughter decided that, hey, we're going to inject you with the virus, father, and kill you essentially.
Was it basically a giant light bulb with a fly swatter?
No, I can't remember exactly what happened.
Again, I didn't want to interrupt you, but the whole butterfly thing kind of like, what? Wait.
Huh? There's a giant bug zapper in the sky.
We're on like Metal Gear Solid levels of convoluted plot points.
Oh, you
here.
have no
It's
idea.
where she's like, she can turn into this weird, massive, well, I say massive, but it's not super massive, butterfly creature that can kind of shoot stuff at you. And remember, her blood is basically flammable and like burns things when it touches them. And I don't mean like acid burn, I mean sets on fire.
Like napalm.
Well,
yeah.
you know, it's we find this to be kind of hilarious, but at the same time, Resident Evil has had how many games up to this point?
Okay, so 8 in the main series, and then after that, there's a lot of
There's
side
like Code
ones.
Veronica and Revelations.
The Outbreak series, just a lot.
Survivor, which is an awful game. I know you've watched the AVGN episode on it.
Oh, is that the one where you have to the Resident Evil typing game?
No,
that's actually House of the Dead, because that's Typing of the Dead.
Oh,
Yeah.
I know that being a Sega thing.
No, the Survivor one is the one that starts out with the main character getting in a fight with the person he's pretending to be, and then he gets into a helicopter and flies, and the helicopter crashes while they're both in it, and he, as AVGN puts it, he basically gets pooped out of the helicopter.
You know,
It's an awful game. It's first person, which you think, and AVGN points this out, you'd think would be really good with the Resident Evil series. And if you played 7, you know that it is really good with the Resident Evil series. But this game is
as maybe
Fair
not jump
enough.
scare, but like peripheral, it'd be a lot harder to see around corners than it is. Because, you know, with third person view, you can kind of sneak a peek around corners, but you shouldn't be able to.
You couldn't in the original 3 Resident Evils because they didn't have the third person view. They had the
Overview,
well, not even an overview. They had camera stuck in place, and you can't see around the corner intentionally, so you can get jump scared.
Yeah,
Right.
that
And
was,
then they had
Which
the
works.
tank controls.
they did that a
Yeah,
little bit.
but I liked it.
You can turn and then you can move forward, but you can't do both at the same time.
Well, they had to develop the controller
And-
before they had analogs, really.
And I
Yeah.
think that's why there are live comparisons between Silent Hill and Resident Evil. Just because the original Silent Hill played about the same. Like, you have fixed cameras, you have tank controls, but that's around, and they're both scary, but that's around the point where the similarities kind of end.
You're right. What Silent Hill game was? It was all controlled by a dog in a command booth.
Oh, that was Silent Hill 2? That was one of the joke endings, to be fair.
I found it hilarious. I've never
yeah.
played it. I've seen it, and I'm just like, what? Because there's
Yeah.
like 7 endings in total for Silent Hill 2, right?
Yeah, there's so many endings. And 2 of them are joke endings. They always have to have, like, an alien ending, which I always think is fun. Like, aliens are controlling the whole thing.
I mean, you have a city that just basically disappeared off the face of the earth. I can see it.
Yeah,
Wasn't it based off a real town?
Yeah, somewhere in, I want to say Pennsylvania.
It's that one town.
That's got the underground coal fire.
Yeah, that never ceases burning or whatever, or
Yeah.
hasn't ceased burning. I should
Because
say.
there's still enough coal in the mines to burn for
It's-
what, another 300-400 years at
Yeah.
least.
So it's always smoky.
It's completely abandoned, and you personally can go out there with enough equipment and last maybe a couple of days. So it's actually a really great opportunity to make a video game after that. That would be horror, because really, like, it's kind of like Chernobyl in that sense.
It's
Everything's dead.
Yeah, it's
In
a pure
which
ghost
you
town.
can go into it for a little while because you know better. You don't know what else is out there that doesn't know better.
Well, I remember when that first happened. Within like 6
Sorry.
months, the government sent in bulldozers to level every house just so they didn't have to worry about squatters and homeless people moving in.
Because like the homeless will die if they spend too much time in there. They'll get all
Well,
kinds
I
of
mean,
carbon monoxide poisoning.
yeah, and well, I mean, as you're being homeless, you have to live wherever you can. Remember I say a couple years ago, I think it was like 10 years ago, the 7 or 8 homeless people that died in a landfill because they made a house in a landfill and it collapsed and nobody found them for like a month.
Well, I mean,
I picture no one ever finding them.
yeah.
Maybe they just send out body sniffing dogs to the trash every so often. I mean, that sounds like something you always hear. Oi, Jimmy, what'd you do with the body? Hey, I cut him up and I put him in a few different trash cans.
Why does your New York accent sound vaguely English?
Shut up. Because I'm terrible at accents, that's why. You know this.
I don't know, maybe it's just me, but yeah.
It's not.
Okay.
Why is your Italian mob awfully more Eastern?
I had no idea what accent he was
Like,
doing. Just to
way
specify.
more Eastern.
But we say that Resident Evil's gone in some strange places, but again, it's gone through a lot of games. It's got to evolve at some point in time. I would say, zombies are like a great villain. Why do they need to change? Look at the Call of Duty zombies. And then I look back and I go, no, that's definitely changed. I remember one of I say the newer games, but it came out like 5 years ago, and we had to fight blimps. There was the zombie made out of like 10 people, the Viking zombies. There was
Wait,
shock
Viking
trooper
zombies?
flamethrower zombies.
Okay, you have my attention now.
Oh yeah, it was.
Well,
it's
see, the thing is, you get put in a scenario like, and I'll start with the Call of Duty, for example, where your character's already way better than he should be at everything he does.
Yeah.
Realistically, I mean, this is what, in my opinion, makes the Outbreaks like probably the highest point of, I wouldn't say of Resident Evil, but I would say of what they were shooting for originally. Because you're regular people and you're not overpowered, and the only way to beat the game reliably is literally to manipulate the game in your favor. Like, certain characters have certain abilities that are just, I wouldn't say they're OP, but they are if you know how to use them right. Like, there's a character who can play dead, but playing dead makes your body die faster. There's a virus gauge in the game that will get to 100%, and it makes it spike really fast. But there's a place where you can go or anywhere there's a guy that just sits there and follows you around like a tyrant in the other games. He will come near you. You can literally run towards him and then use this play dead ability to jump and dive past him and then get back up and keep running. But like, it's stuff like that if you can reliably do things like that, you can beat the game. Otherwise, it's not impossible. It's just hard.
Yeah.
Like, extremely hard, and that makes a lot of sense realistically. If you're not a military trained person, especially,
Yeah.
or at least police or SWAT or something like that,
Yeah.
it makes sense that you would probably die. The
Right.
odds are not in your favor.
I mean, and that was kind of what I liked about Silent Hill is that in the very first game you play as a writer, and like you end up actually surviving, but you're not exactly a force to be reckoned with at all throughout the game.
Well, there is one thing I'm thinking of in this thing, because in Resident Evil 7, Biohazard, what are you? I know you're not the police or anything special.
You're just a guy looking for his wife.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the reason why I'm
We
wondering
don't know
this...
anything about what he does.
The only part of the game I've seen people play the intro, and I know there towards the end of the intro, spoilers, you get your hand cut off and then stapled back on. And obviously, none of these insane people are doctors. Did they infect you with the virus to keep controlling it?
Yeah, actually,
yeah.
yes. Spoiler alert,
We-
yes.
we found-
In 7, you don't find out until number 8,
Yeah.
but you got infected with the virus that they had, and it's some sort of spore mushroom type.
So kind
Or
of like
fungus type, that's what it is.
So
They're
is it
fungus
kind of
people.
like in 4 where you have to, it's inside you, but it takes a while to grow and start to mutate and control you?
Well, it doesn't control you per se. Evelyn, the little girl, I think that's her name. She can take control of you in some aspects, and it's kind of sad. She's kind of just looking for a friend, but she got infected with the virus when she was really young, and
She basically stopped aging or something?
she's a mushroom person, but she doesn't look like a mushroom or anything. But she's just made of fungus, and you find out in 8 about this at the very end of the game when Ethan's like, "Okay, I'll sacrifice myself," and
Doesn't work out too well for him.
Well, he succeeds in doing what he wanted to do, but he does die in the process. But you don't find out what he is until a little bit before that point, and that's when he decides, I'll just go out in a blaze of glory, so to speak, while Chris escapes with, it's gonna sound funny, my wife and kid.
How about you sacrifice Chris so I can go off with
Because
my own
Chris
life
is still
and
a
kid?
regular person.
Yeah.
Chris is the only person in the main series who's never been infected, and somehow survived the entire thing.
I thought Leon wasn't infected with
Leon
anything
got the
either.
Lost Plagas in him for a while.
Yeah.
True, but he did eradicate it before the end of the game.
Yes, but we've learned that sort of thing still has effects on people. That's
And-
why Sherry Birkin has like super healing still in her body, because the G virus had an effect on her,
Yeah.
but they got rid of it before it could, mutate her.
Well, we also
eyeball
know that if
her,
you give
but-
birth, some of it gets passed on. Wesker's son's never been infected with anything, but he does, in fact, is immune
Well,
to the T virus.
No, it's not that he's immune. He got injected with a weird, very powerful version of the T virus. He actually gets killed in the first game, and he
Wait,
comes back
Wesker
to
or his son?
Wesker.
Wesker does. Yeah.
Well, because I'm
The
talking.
tyrant goes and murders him straight up
Because
after Barry shoots him.
I'm
Oh, yeah.
thinking of the
I
very
remember that,
blasphemous
actually.
Resident Evil 6, where the little girl Sherry Birkins, I thought, was grown up. She's
Yep.
like 18 or 19, and then there's Wesker's son.
Yeah.
Did he have more than one son that I'm thinking of? Then?
No.
So.
Wesker gets killed in the first game.
yeah. After he had
Wesker.
already-
Well, I'm talking about Wesker's son.
Oh no, he doesn't even become a thing. In fact, I find the fact that he even had a kid, I think is really weird, because they're like, oh, he had some kid with a random stranger, and it's like, does Wesker really look like the type of guy who would have a kid with a random stranger?
Does he
Yeah,
look
they
like the kind of guy that does a one-night hookup?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like that's the thing.
They actually did something similar in Far Cry New Dawn. Like, the big bad from Far Cry 5 ended up having a son. Here's his mom. What'd she do? Like, there's a little bit of a note about that. Just like, but I mean, he's a holy man. He's a clergyman. Why would he be going out hooking up with random strangers?
Yeah, if Wesker were gonna have a
It's a cult.
kid, I pictured him literally growing it in a laboratory
Yeah.
and knowing everything it does all the time. But I picture Wesker never having a kid because he thinks he's the superior
True.
being.
Yeah.
Like,
So-
nothing could ever match up to me. Why would I ever have kids?
Right. Well, in Resident Evil
Again, going
7...
into Metal Gear territory there.
In Biohazard, doesn't that take place before, like, Resident Evil 4 or something? Because didn't they show a... I remember the
no.
very end of 7, you see Chris, but he doesn't seem... No, I thought maybe it was like a before he got into, like...
Well, it's not like
something.
a wrestling action figure like he was in 4, 5, and 6, but...
Well, he wasn't in
5 and
4.
6.
He was in
Oh, okay.
5.
Sorry about that.
But no, yeah, it's he's not a gorilla. No.
No.
I don't know.
He's not a boulder punching machine.
Don't you
Oh my
remember
God,
in
I've
5 when he
never
could punch a boulder into submission?
Yeah, I've never played 6, but I have seen that scene, and I just like, oh my God, Resident Evil got weird.
I was watching a video about it just the other day about like who would be the strongest among the characters, and they're like, well, Leon with help pushes a boulder like almost twice the size. And I was like, yeah, he pushed the boulder. He didn't punch it into submission, you know.
Yeah, he crumbled it into dust. It looked like.
He punches it and it falls over. But I will say this: it is made of pumice, which is like, well, likely made of pumice because it's in a volcano, which is like very light stone.
Spongy.
Yeah, it kind of feels like plastic.
So for its size, it's probably not extremely heavy, but
aggressive?
it's still massive. I mean,
Oh yeah.
wow.
Well, I mean,
that thing's gotta weigh a couple thousand pounds still.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's still. Chris is very punch-worthy, whereas I see Leon as more of the acrobatic. I'm going to dodge a little. Chris is your warrior.
Yeah.
Leon is your rogue.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a scene in the movie Resident Evil Degeneration where he does an amazing job of not dying by running along this platform that's like there's a countdown. It's like 5, 4, 3. And he's going rolling over stuff, sliding under stuff, backing everything, and then he jumps at the last second and grips on.
Whee!
Great comparison might actually be like Solid Snake compared to Raiden.
Yeah.
Yeah, just because Solid Snake's like an expert in tactical stuff, and Raiden's just a really nimble cybernetic ninja in Metal Gear 4. Why?
Well, I liked Raiden. I mean, well,
I thought he was way cooler in 4 than he was in 2, to be fair.
Well,
but...
in 2, that was the very first Metal Gear Solid game I ever played.
Yeah.
Because I had just gotten a PS2, went to Movie Gallery, and I've heard
Movie
of
Gallery.
Metal Gear Solid. Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
we talked
back in
about
the
it.
day.
We talked about it last episode. Who knows? Maybe Tim Curry will be there too. There's a Tim Curry plug-in.
I cannot relate Tim Curry to Resident Evil in any way.
I don't know.
He would fit as a good horror character, though.
Oh,
I mean, he
wouldn't he?
wasn't as the clown in
Yeah,
It.
yeah.
Well,
he was great.
and that serial
Pennywise.
killer in Criminal Minds, he played an excellent, insane serial killer.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he'd be a Tim Curry. Don't even bother with our crappy podcast. Like, go talk to Capcom and see if you can get a job over there.
Oh yes, please voice our next main bad guy. I will buy that game no
Yeah.
matter how terrible.
I haven't played a Resident Evil game since like the 20 minutes of 4 I ended up playing. But man, I would play that Resident Evil game. I would.
Yeah, but I did play Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty. I liked Raiden, but then again, I'd never played a Solid Snake other than in that 10-minute intro.
Well, and that
sequence
was
you
the
got.
biggest complaint, is that nobody wanted to play as Raiden. Instead, they wanted to play as the really cool Solid Snake.
Right, which you get to do in well, actually not even in 3. In
You
3,
play
you
as
play
Yeah,
as
you're
the
kind of
original
big boss, yeah.
yeah. And is 4? What was it? Metal Gear Rising? That was 4.
No, Metal Gear Rising was kind of its own thing,
'Cause
and
that
I
one
think
you played
fans
Raiden
were a lot more okay with it just because it wasn't a main series game. You're just gonna play
You're
as
riding,
Cybernetic
you're
Ninja
hack and
for a
slash.
while.
You didn't try to
Yeah.
be. You didn't basically put a different skin on Solid Snake and say, "No, look, it's a different character."
Yeah,
no, it's
no.
not. Just give us our old character.
and
And he
he-
was even in the story. Solid Snake was in Metal Gear Solid 2.
Yeah.
He was the guy that was just kind of hiding out there.
Yeah,
And,
Pliskin.
yeah. Why are
Yeah.
you there? If you're not
And
gonna
he's
be
the one
guy?
at the end with who keeps giving you ammo because he has the
Oh, yeah.
which I love the plug in there. So he if you hadn't played number 1, it wouldn't make as much sense. But he has a bandana that, or you can get a bandana that gives you infinite ammo. So it makes
Well,
sense that he would just
what?
keep feeding Raiden ammo when he has the
God.
bandana on because he can just keep getting it.
Yeah, they actually make a
Wow.
joke in Metal Gear Solid 3 about that. But,
That's actually kind of hilarious, and I love it. And just
yeah. Oh.
you know, I do like how you can make timeline problems in that game. I remember the first time I played Metal Gear Solid 3.
You killed Revolver Ocelot.
Oh, yeah, no, and that's the thing. They purposefully don't give you anything but that trank gun. And I go, hey, I recognize this guy from 2. And you trank him. And then I look down at him, I go, no. And I pull out the gun, I just keep shooting tranks into his head. And then finally he goes, ugh, and dies and goes, you have created a timeline issue.
Yeah.
Game over.
In Colonel Campbell's voice, no less.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you, Snake? You weren't supposed to kill people. But he tries to kill me in the future.
Yeah, it'd be so much.
Well,
God, you have.
He doesn't try to kill you. Well, I mean, he does in the game, but he doesn't try to kill you in the future. He tries to kill Snake in the future, not Big Boss.
Quite frankly, I think he just has a huge man crush on Big Boss.
Would it really surprise? Have you seen?
Kinda, like the way they phrase it, but he never explicitly mentions anything like that.
I mean, have you seen him in Metal Gear Solid 5? The old man looks epic as all get out. I could have an old man crush on someone like that. I get it.
To be fair,
Well,
Solid
no.
Snake looks super old too.
Yeah. Everybody looks old.
He does because of the cloning process. if I
Yeah.
recall.
He doesn't
Oh
look
yeah,
super
Fox died.
agey.
That's why. That's why in Metal Gear Solid. That's why in Metal Gear Solid 4, you play as an old man, even though Metal Gear Solid 1 is set in 2005. Metal Gear Solid 4 is set in 2014, I think.
And Snake looks like he's gained 40 years.
Yeah, and he looks old as hell. There's no better way to
He's
play.
still basically just fine. His body looks and ages kind of old quickly because he was a clone and he has Fox dye in his system, and
I'm guessing Fox dye is worse than blue dye number 47.
no, Fox
or
dye is
whatnot.
worse than COVID. It's worse than friggin' like anthrax.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it will just kill you randomly at any time.
Yeah.
So, but instead of killing him randomly, it's just making him age super fast. Or is that just one of the symptoms?
Yeah.
Well, it's one of the symptoms. Yeah, that and the fact that he's a clone.
And he could die at any minute.
I'm guessing,
Yeah.
is this Fox dye something that had to be put in him to clone him? Did he
No.
get infected?
He got okay. So, and this is part of the first Metal Gear Solid. At the very beginning, before you even do anything, you're not told about this, and you don't learn about this till 2/3 of the way through the game. But when you were getting set up for the mission, we'll say getting debriefed and everything, you're getting set up to go do stuff. You get injected with this without knowing about it,
Yeah.
and the reason is they want you to spread this contagion over the entire island and basically wipe everyone there. They want you to kill everyone there, accidentally. But they're going to make you go there anyway to pretend you're on a mission, which you are on a mission. They do want you to kill the bad guys if you can, but if you don't, Fox dye is the backup.
Yeah.
So you think that if you were going to... That's like saying, hey, you see James Bond over there? He's the best spy we have. Quick, put a suicide vest on the inside of him and don't make an off switch.
It actually is essentially like that.
Well, keep in mind, too, during the events of Metal Gear Solid 1, Snake had already retired from the
Oh, see,
Special
now that I
Forces.
didn't know, because I'm sitting
Yeah.
there thinking, well, what's your backup plan if he dies? Mainly, and the reason because I know that the Fox dye is the backup plan, but I mean, he's your best spy. He has proved himself by this point time and time again.
Yeah.
Why would you kill off the best person you have? Why don't you send in, like, your 10th best? The guy
Because
basically flunked out of the academy.
Because you're actually up against some pretty bad mofos.
Oh, yeah.
And you don't know this, and nobody but Revolver Ocelot knows this, but of the clones, Snake was actually the weakest one.
Oh, yeah.
Liquid was supposed to be stronger than him, and Solidus, the villain from number 2,
was
supposed to be the
crazy
best
powerful,
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they all turned evil.
No, they were probably all going to be evil anyway. The fact that Solid Snake is not is actually very strange.
Yeah.
But Solid Snake, being the one who is supposedly the weakest, turns out to be the one who outlives them all and kicks both their
he
asses.
kills both Liquid and Solidus.
And the reason I think that he won, at least, is just because he had more to fight for, or better things to fight for.
Well, that and plus, he
A lot more
actually
motivated.
did combat training and stuff.
I'm sure
Like
they
Liquid-
did too. It doesn't tell you they did, but I mean, I can assume
Well,
since
not
he
only-
friggin' Liquid takes out 2 MiG planes with a friggin' Hindy helicopter.
Yeah, that will
Well,
always
yeah,
mess with me.
But not just that, but didn't, like, Solidus and Liquid Snake, didn't they have some sort of, like, supernatural abilities?
Not
no.
really. They were just clones of
There
Big
was-
Boss with the best genes implanted in them.
They're one of the few Metal Gear bosses who actually don't have some kind of crazy superpower.
And Ocelot, because he can just... I can
Yeah.
juggle guns!
Yeah, he's
I mean,
just an
that's
old guy
cool.
with a really cool gun.
Yeah,
3
it's not
really
that they
cool guns.
that most of the people have something supernatural about them. It's just they're literally the best at what they do. The only one I could say supernatural is probably Psycho Mantis.
Yeah, he could... Well, what about
well-
the chick that could deflect bullets with her brain?
She did not actually have that ability.
Well, they do
Yeah.
say that she was wearing an emitter, but at the very end, when you're fighting against the actual
Fortune.
Metal Gear, she actually was able to do it.
She's just
Yeah.
lucky.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
She can bend bullets with luck!
Oh, hence
I don't-
why her name's Fortune, right? Yeah, that makes sense. No, I
No,
was...
one guy is a vampire or some sort of weird.
Oh,
vampire
yeah,
type
but that's
creature.
all due to nano machines, because nano machines are Metal Gear magic.
They
Just anytime something weird happens, they're just like,
Oh,
it's nano machines, yeah.
And we had nanomachines since, what, the 80s?
Clearly since the 60s, because the bosses in Metal Gear Solid 3 are fucking weird.
That one you gotta like basically die in order to kill him. It's like what?
Oh, are you
Yeah.
talking about the weighty, that
Yeah.
guy who could pop his eyeball out?
The end, yes.
Or if you just get into the fight and then just push your clock forward a week, he just dies of old age.
I like to think
I
his
remember-
liver spots aren't even
Yeah,
liver
that's-
spots. They're natural camouflage.
That's ridiculous.
Like, the game doesn't talk about it, but hitting the real hard truth here.
His body knew he needed old person camouflage.
Yeah, man.
Is that why the greatest generation right now is covered in liver spots? It's for camouflage?
Well, the greatest generation
It's
is,
hell.
yeah, they're
Yeah, so
very
is the
dead
end.
right now.
Yeah.
Well, fair enough. It was in the 60s, so...
And he was old by then.
Well, yeah, but, I mean, in the 60s, the Lost Generation was kind of old, so...
Yeah. So, Metal Gear Solid, interesting game. I think,
Series. It's actually I would say one of the better series until I would say until after 3, because they broke out into a lot of different things like Uprising and then Metal Gear Acid, which was a card playing
Yeah, what?
version of Metal Gear
Acid
Solid.
was
Yeah.
like the weirdest thing.
You must have been on Acid to make that
Yeah,
game.
that's
It
what
was
I
think.
strange.
So
It's
is
a
it-
card game.
The-
I've never played it,
Okay.
but the fact that it's a card game makes me instantly not want to play it.
Now,
And there's nothing else to it, just a card game.
and in all fairness, the portable games like Portable Ops, Peace Walkers, stuff like that, they were good, but you have to get a PSP for that. So I can't blame anyone for not wanting to play them.
Yeah, the PSPs weren't really popular.
I had one for a little bit, and the only game I had, if I recall, was Final Fantasy Dissidia. The
Yeah,
first
good.
one.
I had
It
that.
was a good game. It was very hard.
Oh,
It's basically Soul Calibur, but with Final Fantasy characters.
No, it
Yeah.
is not like Soul Calibur. A good comparison to it would be like the Zone of Ender games, kind of, in that you don't in the playstyle, not the actual.
Well, I was about to say,
equipment or
because the
anything.
whole thing is basically
okay.
a battle arena. You fight bosses and minions and stuff like that. It's
But it's not any like turn-based thing or anything.
well,
like
no. But
that. It's an action game.
well,
An action
Soul
fighting game.
Calibur isn't either. Soul Calibur is an
Yeah,
arena
but it's
fighting game.
basically a 2D for the most
Well,
part.
it
fighting
was
game.
some of the older ones. Yeah,
Fair
nowadays
enough,
it was more of an arena versus the always facing.
yeah, you can play it like Street Fighter, but now you can actually.
Well,
dodge
I know
and
it
stuff,
goes,
so-
it turns sideways, but this game is on a massive map, and
Oh,
you
yeah.
search out people, and you search out your opponent, and certain people have, and it's funny too because I've always been like my favorite Final Fantasy game is number 9, and the characters in the first Dissidia from that game, both your hero and villain, are the best characters in Dissidia bar none.
Oh.
And, like Zidane, the main hero, is so fast he just pounds people into dust.
Well, and Final Fantasy IX is my favorite game in
And
the series.
Kuja's so good because most people you gotta fire magic at people.
Yeah.
His magic starts on his target and goes and just claps on him every time.
Sick.
That sounds awesome.
I gotta
It's
play
scummy.
Dissidia
Like his
sometime.
new flare star is way OP, but
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me on Elden Ring. There's actually a spell on there. It's kind of weak. It's pretty weak, but the best ability of it is that when you cast it, it doesn't come from you. It actually appears like 2 feet behind the person and then hits them.
Oh.
the
Yeah,
ambush shard I think is what it's called.
Yeah, and it works. There's also one that's basically
They gotta be
the
a certain distance
invisibility
from
shot.
you though. Like
Fair
if they're
enough.
too far away, the thing will appear right in front of you and shoot you. It won't do any damage, but it'll just be like, pew.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I get
and
you.
it might be weak, but for people who are so focused on what's coming on in front of it, because most spells, you can't shoot from behind. That's if you're facing somebody, you don't have to worry about what's behind you unless
Yeah.
there's people there. So it was an interesting concept. It's really good. Things that other people have done.
Yeah.
They did invisibility magic that you can shoot invisible spells at people.
Yeah.
That was also really good because you shoot it once or twice, they realize what's going on, and you just see them rolling forward. And I'm like, not even doing anything, man. I'm just standing here, keep looking like an idiot.
Yeah. That sounds fun, man.
It is pretty fun.
But no, like I do recommend on that back onto the Metal Gear thing. if you really just play all the main series games and you like really want to get some answers, sure, Metal Gear Solid 4 plays okay, and you do get the answers you want, but they're really dumb answers.
They are.
Well, look at Resident Evil 5. They have a timeline page where it's supposed to give you the days things started. Like, apparently, according to 5, and I don't know if they forget something, I don't know if that's actually true, you actually find a clipboard that says that Umbrella found this plant in the African jungle in the late 60s,
Yeah.
early 70s, and that's what they created the T-virus with.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, keep in mind, the Umbrella Corporation was founded by Oswald Spencer, Ashford, and then Dr. Marcus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they were all university students together. They decided to. It's funny. They decided they wanted to be evil all the way back then, but they're like, we need a way to make money, so they've
Made a pharmaceutical company.
because
Yeah,
they were
sure.
all like virologists and whatnot.
Yeah.
Back then, they do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
During this time, they actually start the Wesker project a little bit later than this. So when you do all this, Wesker's like 45 in the first Resident Evil game. He's
Yeah.
around that age.
Really?
Yeah. And then you get all the way to Resident Evil 5, and he's got to be like a 60-year-old man, you know? And he's out there beating the hell out of you.
That's like the opposite.
I mean,
of
he does have a virus in
anime
you, but you look at him, you're like, that man is not even close to old.
Yeah.
You know? He looks like he's in his prime.
Yeah, but
And Chris even is like 40
Yeah.
by
Okay,
Resident Evil 5.
I can
Well-
kind of see that.
And
although,
punching boulders to death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They should have at least made him 35. Come on, 40 is pushing.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know exactly.
40
but
is
he's
getting too
starting
old
to get
to
up there.
punch boulders.
And fighting volcanoes. Come on, that's a bit of a younger man's game. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah. I know I couldn't do it right
But
now.
I thought the Wesker we normally fought, like, I knew the original Wesker, wasn't he the commander in Stars, or was he the clone by that point already?
Both.
Oh dear.
Yeah, he's both. So he, for like 10, 15 years, he works in the Umbrella Corporation, right?
Okay.
And then because the Umbrella Corporation through Dr. Birkin is basically bribing Police Chief Irons into keeping everything hush hush that's going on. Like there's you go through most of their passageways and whatnot in the sewer, number 2. But they've been meeting there, talking, giving him bribes, which is how he's affording all the weird art in the police station.
Isn't that also the fact that he's a serial killer himself?
He's not until just before, like just after the events of the first game, because he's paranoid that the police are watching, or not the police, the FBI is watching him, because Chris has a suspicion that he's being bribed. He doesn't know for sure, but he tells the FBI that he's been under a lot of suspicious activity, and he's been buying all this art somehow, and he does not have the salary to afford all that crap. So, and then Chris, goes off to Europe. But
Well, it is kind of easy to detect if you have a bribe. So, sir, do you mind telling us the solid gold statue that's in the foyer over there that's like 12 feet tall that costs more than our entire annual budget for 2 years?
I got it off of eBay. I wanted it in a major way. We got like...
he won it at the slots.
Yeah.
There was
It
this
was-
amazing card game. There was a Texas guy involved, or a Russian.
Yeah.
Russians
Oh.
also do things like that.
Yeah, that's always my go-to made-up fight story.
Back to the Wesker thing though. So he's working as this guy for and with Birkin. Now I would say Birkin's the only person Wesker ever knew that he would probably consider a friend. Everyone else is basically disposable in his mind. He'll pretend to be friends with you, and then you're garbage.
Oh, yeah.
Birkin's a little different because he grew up with Birkin.
Oh.
That's it. But so he works here with Birkin. They develop things with the T virus, and Birkin starts to get heavy into the G virus. And at this point, it's around like 1995. Wesker joins the STARS team. It was just formed, and he goes there, and because he's already awesome, because he's a genetic kid whose genetics were messed with to be superior, he becomes the captain of the thing. Plus, he has an in with Chief Irons, who Birkin's been giving him the money.
Yeah.
So he becomes the thing, so he can keep. So Wesker can also keep a watch over all the police activity and shove things away from blaming Umbrella.
Yeah.
And so.
And now, isn't Birkin's the one that Umbrella sends to kill him, and then he accidentally gets infected with the G-Virus? Or no, he infects himself.
He infects himself
dying.
on purpose.
Oh yeah.
But he is the reason the T-Virus gets out into the town. During his rampage after he injects himself with the G-Virus and he's getting his revenge on everyone, on
Makes
all
sense.
the Umbrella people that came to kill him. And the opening to Outbreak really illustrates this. They're fighting him, and he's just saying, "Yeah, I'm injected with this virus, and I'm super strong. You guys are basically, rabbits at this point." So they're stomping him into the dirt. Or, if you want to go even further, you could say he's Yamcha. They're all Yamcha, and he's just killing them. But at some point, they're running away with like samples of a bunch of viruses, and they spill it on the ground, and he stomps on it, and then the rats feed on it.
Oh crap.
Ooh.
And when the rats feed on it, you would think, well, that's not enough to get it into the town.
Oh.
Well, the rats happen to get into the water supply.
Yeah.
And that, basically, like most people think that it was, if you haven't really done anything with the lore, that like one person got bit and then it started from there.
No.
No, it got into the water system. People were drinking it.
Well,
and
we also know it's airborne. At least if you believe the first Resident Evil movie, it could be airborne.
not the movies, it's airborne. In the games, it's not.
Okay.
So
Do we want to talk about the movies? Any at all?
not yet.
Okay.
So it gets into the water supply, and it's the thing is the T virus also has like a 10% rejection rate. People just won't get infected with it at all, which is, and Birkin twerked it some because of that, because Umbrella probably wouldn't think that it's viable to sell to the government.
If it
And
was
yes,
so
they are in business with the government at this
Fair
point.
enough.
Oh yeah.
So what they do is they twist it to where it can also affect plants and animals and make it very likely to, even if it doesn't infect you and just get you, it'll get you another way. Some animal's going to kill you, some plant is going to kill you, something's going to kill you.
And can I just say, the fact that plants can get it is probably the most terrifying. I mean, don't get me wrong. A human shambling toward you is terrifying, but at least you can see that. If there are plants, the roots go underground. They always bust out from the ground and they can grab you. They're the more silent killer. I mean, what are you going to do? Look at a tree and go, "Hey, buddy."
Well,
you
Jill in number
okay?"
3 fights a giant worm that got infected. Like
Yeah.
a regular worm gets infected, boom, it turns into giant.
Remember that movie with Marky Mark where the plants were
Oh
releasing
God, the
toxins to make them-
happening! God,
I
why?
haven't
Right?
seen that.
Oh yeah, so no,
It's hilariously
Is it worth it?
bad.
it's
It's
basically
worth it because of that.
Yeah,
Yes.
you will get a lot of laughs out of it. It is not scary at all.
So-
Like, he talks like a kindergarten teacher throughout the whole movie.
But basically, the trees are sick and tired of humanity's crap. So they develop
Makes sense.
an antitoxin or something. I can't remember what it is. Some chemical that they can release when humans are near, and it causes them to kill themselves.
And
And then I mean the whole movie. If more than like one or two people are in an area with a plant, people will just. This one woman's like takes out her hairpin and stabs herself in the neck. This one guy turned on a lawnmower and then just laid down in front of it as it ran him over.
and you would think there'd be a huge gore factor, but there really isn't. It's just
Oh, so they kind of like
so
Stephen King movie it, where they
cheesy.
just always hide the bad stuff happening.
Actually, that's a really great comparison. Like, it really does kind of feel like Stephen King during his coke-fueled years.
I'm just saying. Who
Those
else?
were awesome years, to be fair.
Yeah, weren't they?
You need to be scared of this tree. You need to be scared of this cemetery. You need to be scared of. All right, Stephen
house.
King, we get it. For some reason, you're terrified of outside.
Yeah.
It's not just outside. I mean, he makes cars dangerous. He makes storms dangerous. He makes houses dangerous.
He makes
I mean,
women's-
Rose Red, the house, is haunted and trying to kill them.
He makes women's periods terrifying.
To be fair,
And fire.
most writers are scared of being outside.
Well, so do most introverts, but I don't go around trying to stab myself so people don't come inside.
I'm not afraid of outside. I don't like it. There's a difference.
Yeah.
I'll go out there all day, and it's weird. If I'm working, I'm fine. But if I'm not working, I'm just like, son, you suck.
Why aren't I inside just sitting here again? The chairs are better. There's air conditioning. I can control my own breeze.
I like winter.
I'm just saying, like, I could totally see a guy trying to get into horror after writing other things, and he's just like, ooh, other people, the sun.
Well, remember when they did that on Family Guy? They're like, "Oh, Stephen King, what's your next book gonna be about?" And he's looking around. It's about he grabs a lamp monster. What are you even trying anymore? Ha ha.
Well, there's that one
When
episode
can I have it?
where they run him over, or they think they run him over, and they're like, "Oh my God, Stephen King!" He's like, "No, I'm Dean Koontz." I'm like, "Oh," they get back in the car.
Yeah.
I loved Family Guy back in the day. They've gotten a bit more lax, I guess. I don't know.
It's been going on so long. I mean, The Simpsons did that. South Park's doing that.
Well, Simpsons have done everything,
quit
according
being-
to South Park.
I quit paying attention after Brian died and came back.
Well, even the main guy himself said that was supposed to be when the series ended.
Seth MacFarlane.
Yes. And that's why I think it wasn't long after that he started the Orville, because he's like, you know what? No, Family Guy, it should have been done.
Well,
it's stagnating.
Did they restart Orville?
Yeah, season 3 just came out not that long ago.
Okay.
I haven't even seen the first season.
It's great. It's an homage to Star Trek. It was good.
I do love
They
Star
do
Trek.
make it that clear that it's an homage.
Well, I mean, now he's doing everything but Family Guy. Like, he's working on, he gave up on the Cleveland show, but he's doing American Dad.
To be fair, I would have given up on the Cleveland show too.
I thought it was funny, but at the same time, I get it. He made a couple of movies. I really liked A Million Ways to Die in the West.
It's pretty
Me
good.
too.
One.
Yeah.
You know, they do say that Stephen King's writing style changed a lot after his car accident. He said being that close to death really changed a lot of his perspectives.
Yeah.
When was his car accident?
I want to say the early to mid 90s.
Hmm.
Because Stephen King's been writing since like the 70s.
I know,
yeah.
and done incredible books and whatnot. The Dark
believe-
Tower series is.
Oh, Dark Towers is my favorite by him.
I believe his first novel he wrote after that was Dreamcatcher, which is weird because it was super not good.
I loved the book. The movie was weird. I did like the book.
Yeah, okay. Well, to be fair, I never read the book. I did watch the movie.
They were fairly close to the movie, I will give it that, but they're...
You mean the book?
Yeah, but to be fair, there is a massive difference between a book and a movie, and there are some things you can say, there are some things you can't, there are things you can do in one you cannot do in the other.
Honestly, the only thing I got out of it was the fact that Morgan Freeman said the word shit weasel.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong, that's
with
hilarious.
complete sincerity, and it is my favorite part in the movie.
Oh, those damn shit weasels.
And what about the shit weasels?
Now I need Samuel Jackson. I'm tired of these motherfucking shit weasels on this motherfucking planet.
He is. Oh God, we just need more Sam Jackson.
Have you guys seen any of the Netflix Resident Evil series?
I didn't know
Don't.
they made one.
Just
Yeah,
don't.
they did.
It's
I've never seen it.
don't watch it. It is.
Well, he's never seen the
Awful.
Castlevania on Netflix, and that one's actually really good.
I haven't seen
And
it.
I do like Castlevania, so.
It was good.
Yeah.
But they went too, I would say, or they tried to be too woke with it. And so, and it's not just that. They scatter a bunch of stuff that was in the games and they just kind of it all together, and it doesn't flow well as a story even
So here's the problem:
I
you
kinda
either need to make a movie that you take a bunch of stuff out, because a game needs to be at least 8 hours, or else it's way too short. So you need filler in games, so I get that. But you either need to cut it down for a movie or expand it out to be a mini-series at least.
Well, okay, so yes and no. With Resident Evil 2, you could put that in a 3-hour movie. I've seen people online beat that game
really?
in 48 minutes. The remake
Dude.
in 48
Dang.
minutes. Yeah. Now it has to do somewhat with the frame rates in the game. If you turn the frame rates up, the knife does damage based off of how many frames it's hitting the enemy. So if you put the frame rates at as high as you can go, I've seen enemies kill the first boss in 4 knife strikes. They're just and the knife is the weakest weapon in the game.
Yeah.
But it's not when it takes damage 400 times.
Right. You
Fair
can either
enough.
get hit 60 times for 60 frames per second, or I'll jack it up to 1,000.
Yeah, and so you just run on the boss fight. And when you're watching, that is so crap. That is why make a damage thing like that? That
I don't know.
Yeah.
Why is blocking so hard in Dark Souls? Because you have to be frame perfect.
well, the attack has to be coming at your shield.
Right.
And-
Well, no, they
which
actually.
makes
I
sense.
watched a video. They broke it down. For shield, you have 13 frames per second that parry is viable. If you use a katana, it's only good for 11 frames.
Yeah.
If you use a dagger, it's only good for 8. Yeah. The daggers have less parrying than the katanas. And
The parrying shields have a little more, if I recall.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
No, they have like 18. The actual one, like the buckler shield, the one with the big ball.
Oh, yeah,
front,
yeah.
The protrusion shield or whatever.
It
You can parry for like 20 frames or something like that, but it's...
Yeah.
No, they make that intentionally hard, I think, on purpose, though.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you have a giant sword coming at you and this is your last-ditch effort, yeah, you're not going to make it to where you can do it every time without fail.
And I've actually seen you play Elden Ring. You make that look way easy.
Yeah, that's easier than it should be. I suck at it, so that's why I'm the magic caster. You run forward, distract him. I'm going to be back here, and I'm going to power up my giant fuck you spell.
And it works.
Yeah, it does.
Well, and we started, in a way, kind of ganking people when I had the gravity sword.
Oh, yeah.
The meteoric blade.
Well, because, so, a lot of times enemies will just run at you, and if they have some OP thing, which is, in Elden Ring, it wasn't so much like this in Dark Souls, but in Elden Ring, everyone, if you go into any sort of PvP, they have a build that if they kill you, it's going to be within a few seconds. There's no almost ever long, drawn-out fights. It's, I got a thing, a strategy, and if I go in there and I hit you first, basically, you're dead.
Yeah.
Yep.
And if you're not ready for that, yeah, you're gonna die. And unless you have your own, I'm gonna kill you in a second or two thing, because people go in there and they'll spam something like the waterfowl dance or certain spells that will just overwhelm you if you can't exactly dodge it and get to them.
Yeah.
It's
a lot of crap.
One of the ones that I've seen a lot of, at least within like the last week or two, people get like halberds or those really long weapons, and they'll just constantly stab you because they can hit you before you get close enough to hit them, and then they can just keep you at range, and then they can just spam that attack because they got enough stamina.
Well, it's kind of the beauty of the halberd in general, just because it was made by the Swiss, and you can tell they started making one weapon that does like 20 different things really early on.
So this is the Swiss medieval stabby thing.
The Swiss Army spear.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so the strategy will be like that. And what I would do with Andrew is I will suck them in with the gravity, and it makes them, if I hit with the attack, and it's a pretty big area, it makes them momentarily, for like 1 second, able to do nothing, and Andrew will just blast them to death with his insta-kill spell.
Yeah.
And it works like 90% of the time.
And if we can get it timed, if I know I'm not, one of the hardest intelligence spells is called Ronnie's Dark Moon. Now, it's a nice spell. It does a lot of damage. It can do frostbite. The best part about this spell is its AoE
that the
damage.
one I see you do where you, like, throw a planet at people?
Yes.
Okay.
I throw the power of the moon!
I love that.
And it's great because he'll suck them in all launch. They will get out of the gravity spell before it hits them, but they don't usually have enough time to get away from its AoE effect by the time it hits.
And if I hit with my sword after sucking them, which I can get one hit off every time without ever missing, I'll suck them in, hit them once. If I get them with that hit, they will die.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Because that spell will crush them into dust.
It on average...
It'll be like Thanos throwing, the planet at him.
damage per hit. It's wonderful.
He turns into Thanos and throws the planet at him. Or
nice.
at him. It's nasty.
Yeah, I just remember watching you do that, and I'm like, there is not a bigger flex in the world than just like, I hate you so much, I'm going to throw an entire planet at you.
Yeah.
Isn't that basically what Frieza does to the Saiyans?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
A planet made of energy. Yeah, I could get behind that.
Yeah.
Oh my god. You could totally make a Frieza build in Elden Ring.
They've made a Sonic build. There's this spell that allows you to roll with electricity behind you. You don't roll fast, so you don't actually look really fast. But some guy made himself all blue, and like he had like he made himself look like he had a spike on his back or something like that.
And I'm guessing he took all of his weight off so he could just spin that much faster.
It's a little bit faster, but you actually spin really slow in comparison.
Oh,
it's like roll, but you got electricity shooting all around you and stuff.
That's awesome.
It's pretty
I mean, that still sounds pretty fun.
The things you could do with video games nowadays is so much different
to
back then. I mean, think about it. Back in the day when we did our games, you could change heads. That was it. You couldn't change skin colors. If you wanted to be a black person, then you better hope that there is a black head for you to choose on the display.
And it's super unfortunate, and God forbid, even in like Dragon Age Origins, you'd have to be a black guy, but with really straight, very white people hair.
Yes.
Basically.
But I mean, nowadays you can change everything
Yeah.
to the width of your nose, for goodness sakes. And people like the spiffing Brit
Yeah.
play with that all the heck, and I love it.
I actually have made a lot of my characters in Fallout 4 and Dragon Age, and a lot of the time it actually gives me great ideas for like what these characters are going to look like.
One of my favorite character builders in any game, and it's fairly recent, and it's just because of one thing you can do it that I've never seen in any game before. In Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, you can make your eyes offset.
Oh my god!
Which is fantastic.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
You could even make them different sizes and shapes, which I think is very cool.
Yeah, and that is the one good thing. I didn't care much for it, but I love the Borderlands games in general.
Yeah.
And that is the one thing I will admit it's really cool, and I hope we can do it a lot more. Is that like let's create our characters.
Well, there is one thing I never understood. There's only 2 games I know that do it: Cyberpunk 2077 and Conan the Barbarian. Where
Are we talking about the penis size?
Yes, you can you can enlarge or shrink your penis size. Why, I don't know. Unless you can walk around with a David Bowie bulge. I mean, you don't see it.
In all fairness, there are sex scenes in Cyberpunk 2077.
Well, speaking of the spiffing Brit, I love the guy. He did a Cyberpunk one. He named his character Long Dong Silver. And he did that because he gave him a micro penis. He's like, I gotta overcompensate.
Yeah, you actually also have the option to just turn genitals off. I love Cyberpunk 2077.
World candles!
Yeah, you can make it.
That's wow.
Cyberpunk 2077 was a lot of fun, and not just for that reason.
Keanu Reeves, that's the other.
There's a lot going on for Cyberpunk 2077. I think they just tried to jump way too early into it. And from what I understand, I've never played it, but I hear the PS5 version has worked out all the bugs, and it's actually really nice.
Is it a Bethesda game?
It might as well be.
I was about to say, because if there's one thing Bethesda's taught me, it's that massive open world games, you will never get rid of every bug.
Oh, no.
Because I don't know if you've heard this, but in Skyrim, there is a house. In that house, there is a table, and on that table, there is an apple. There is no way to get into the house. There is no way to do this. Yeah. And if they delete that apple, the entire game crashes. They do not know why. They do not know how. They cannot get rid of this apple. So they're like, you know what? There's no doors. There's no insides. Yeah. There is an apple. Leave it alone.
Yeah, Bethesda games are a mystery that man and science and art just cannot figure out.
I spent some time trying to learn how to do coding, and I found something. I found a quote by somebody, and I actually asked professional programmers what they thought, and they said this is 100% accurate. It's a video game this guy was trying to code out and make, and he put it out there online for free. And before you get into it, he has a little paragraph he has you read before you download. He says, I've spent over 200 hours working on this game. And it used to be that nobody but me and God knew how it ran. Unfortunately, now only God knows how it works, and I'm not one of them now. Have fun. I've wasted way too much time on this already.
Yeah.
Well, that tends to be how things happen with programming, though. Like, when they, just little side note, when they built the, I think it was the Obamacare portal or whatever, when they originally built that thing, there were, like, millions of lines of code that were just worthless.
Huh.
Yeah.
And they essentially copied and pasted a massive thing onto it, and they're like, just leave it in there. And that's why when people first started trying to access it, if you recall back when it happened, people spent like 4 months before they could actually get onto it because so many people were trying to get on it, and it was trying to run so many lines of code that didn't matter.
It would just crash the game.
Yeah. Well,
that's
not the
actually
game,
that's called a. There actually is a term in programming that deals with that. That's literally one of the ways to get past security is you just barrage this thing with so many lines of code.
There's a term for that. I can't remember.
I can't remember what it is either. But you literally just pile up so many lines of code that eventually
it. Same thing, but
well, you can. Every system is designed. It is built specifically to only be able to handle so many requests, so many lines of code before it just goes haywire. Now, most of the security systems now
Yeah.
are designed that once it hits that threshold, shut it off, do not allow anything else in. It used to be back in the day, once you hit that threshold, it would just shatter, and at that point, it's so busy trying to figure out what to do next. There was no security at that point. You would just slip right on through because it was so busy backlogging all the previous requests that by the time it got to yours, you already got in, got what you wanted, and left.
Yeah.
Now they use tactics like that to shut servers down for things like videos and whatnot if they don't want them. If like someone or a group, say, doesn't want people to watch or see something, they will spam it with everyone, like all their friends and, huge, massive amount of people just saying, yeah, we're just going to watch it on like silent and turn our screens off and everything and just screw those people over because they don't want them getting their words out.
Yeah.
Like if a Twitch streamer is like saying something really not something you don't like.
Yeah.
Invite a few friends over. A few million friends.
Yeah, and servers can't handle that kind of traffic.
Yeah.
Our infrastructure is designed. It's like like a water hose. It can only handle so much water. Eventually, the pressure will build up. It bursts.
Yeah.
That's what it's designed to do.
I mean, Twitch is notable for even super popular Twitch streamers have issues with that. So.
Oh yeah. So.
But it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, out of curiosity, what do you guys think of the Resident Evil movies? I've seen the first two to death, and I did enjoy them.
The first one's okay. The second one is also okay, and after that, they get really weird.
Yes.
I only saw the first one. It was good.
Yeah.
The second one is,
like
I would say, about equal with how well it does.
Yeah.
Then it goes the third one, which is below that, and then the fourth one's in the toilet.
Like the stories, I would say, are funny, but they're not good. It's like watching a really bad movie. In fact, it is watching a really bad movie.
Yeah.
With all the good parts taken out.
Yeah.
Oh man, we gotta check out these Resident Evil movies, man.
Yeah. The thing is, it's because they already had the games come out. There are certain expectations that viewers, at least of the first few movies, are expecting, and they're like, "This, we hate this because it's not the games."
Yeah.
But it's not just that. It's also they made this character Alice, who's the main character of all the movies.
Yeah.
And Alice is not in the first movie, but after that she is OP as shit.
Yeah.
She can do anything, and they try to paint her as this. Oh, well, she has some problems thinking, and every now and then she can't control her powers and whatnot. It's like whatever. The girl can freaking make a satellite explode up in space from the ground. What?
Yeah. So in the first movie, she's a normal person. She gets gassed with.
Well, she's not
amnesia.
normal. She is a spy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like so, she's I would say a tactically
highly trained.
Yeah, highly trained person, but she is nothing, no genetic special, no nothing.
Yeah,
And then at
she's
the end of
just
the-
Lilu
yeah.
Dallas.
Towards the end of the first movie, she gets infected, or it's like between the first and second movie, they're injecting her with the T virus.
End of the first, they
Yeah,
capture her in that mansion.
And then she bonds with it, kind of like what Wesker does in the video games. They bond, and he gets powers from it. But in this time, it's her. She gets.
Well, Wesker is in the movies too later on, and he still has his powers to
Oh my
teleport
god,
and everything.
Wesker gets in the movies?
Yeah, and then
very, very little screen time.
Ah.
at first, in the last two movies, I think it is. I know the last one, but the last two, he has a lot of screen time.
See, and I've never seen past 4.
Yeah.
So.
And I think he dies in the last movie because, and it's such a corny scene. They have him and Alice and then like 4 other survivors. I think it's Jill and a few others. They're all standing on the White House, and like the entire world's going to hell, but they're there, ready to take on the world. Essentially, it's like, well, I mean, you had a pretty good group there for doing that. I mean, with Alice and Wesker on the same team,
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
they can do a whole lot. But throughout the movie, stuff happens. Wesker dies. Alice finds out that she's not the original Alice even, and she's a clone. Spoiler alert.
Does that really?
I know I'm doing this late, but
In like the
Yeah,
third
yeah,
movie,
fair
you
enough.
find out by the end of the third movie, she has an army of Alices, and
Well,
they
yeah,
all
clones.
have her
Yeah,
superpowers.
yeah.
well, they all have like weaker versions of her powers, and they all essentially die taking that place. But yeah,
It's a weird
She claims
movie.
I
there's like 400 or
actually
500 of them.
I actually do remember seeing online there's like a mass grave of nothing but Alice clones.
It makes sense.
Okay. I'll take your word for it.
Well, because they were trying to the Umbrella Corporation was trying to recreate her because they wanted to control her, and they couldn't control her because she got out. So they wanted to make a new one and control her. And the clones went through the training process. They kept dying because it was like she got out somehow. We want to make one that can get out also, but we're gonna have things even further back to make sure she actually stays in.
Yeah.
And they keep dying due to lasers, due to whatever. They get a lot of them get most of the way out, and then they die from something like a laser or a dog or something.
It's like they kind of get better, but at the same time, she might have gotten out, but that's not how she did it. It's I don't know. It's scientists. They're evil.
It's really crappy movie.
That means they're
story.
Stupid. Yeah.
There's no good structure.
Yeah, I can't help but think this is like, because you see it in like so many games and movies and stuff. I can't help but think anytime like something like this comes up, it's just wish fulfillment for writers.
Yeah, honestly, watch the first 2 movies and then pretend the rest don't exist.
Yeah.
And then the only thing that's left open is at the very end of the second movie, her eyes get the umbrella symbol and she sees almost through like a computer screen kind of thing, and then that's where the movie ends.
Oh, that is stupid.
Oh, it is wholeheartedly stupid. I had actually forgotten about that till right now, but like I said, watch the first 2, forget the rest exist.
So the one good thing, like story-wise, they did is that in the first movie, the main villain, it's not. I wouldn't say it's the Umbrella Corporation per se. It's the Red Queen, AI who controls the mansion.
Yeah, the little girl.
Yeah. In the second movie, I think it's the second movie. She has, or maybe the third, but she has a sister AI called the White Queen, I think is her name.
It was not in the second one, that's for sure.
Yeah. And she is in control of another lab, and or maybe she's in the first one even, but she's helping Alice with stuff.
I don't remember a White Queen.
Okay.
But
well,
it's
she may be in the
been
third
years
one,
since I've seen
but she's
it, so.
kind of a competing AI, and she has her own thing. Well, the cool thing is that in the last 2 movies, it's like the very end of the second to last movie, you find out that the Red Queen has been doing everything, and she is the main villain.
Really? Because I thought the Red Queen was destroyed in the first movie.
Yeah, I know, but she wasn't.
So that was just one of her programs?
I don't remember exactly how that turns out, but yeah, the Red Queen ends up being the main villain of the entire series.
God, that's stupid.
Well, no, it's cool actually in that if I recall, they have a really good reason for why she was able to get out of there.
Is this a Skynet reason?
Not exactly.
Because this is starting to sound like Terminators, but instead of deadly robots, it's zombies.
Okay, kinda, yeah.
Oh God.
I'm kind of okay with that actually.
Well, and the fact that like somehow some villain managed to hide back in the shadows, that's something that's like it's I would almost say a trope. I mean, think about what Sauron does after he's first defeated. You know, he slowly works his way into everything.
Does it, or is it one of those things where it just took him like a few hundred years to get enough consciousness together to start being able to manipulate?
No, think about it. Like the whole thing about the Witch King, almost everything going on in especially the movies, but in The Hobbit is somewhat orchestrated by him. All the bad stuff, I should say. And then Smog's not. No one controls Smog. Smog is his...
Yeah.
I'll do whatever. I'm a dragon. I'll do whatever the hell I want. But
even though he's literally like, what, the 3rd smallest dragon in existence?
Go, cucumber,
Yes, but there's no... At this point, there's basically no other dragons in existence.
Did all of them die, or are they just off-world somewhere?
One or the other, but either way, he's the biggest one here.
Okay.
And no one's going to mess with him because he's a dragon. If he went after... Sauron would lose. It's like, and I think I had you watch that video a while back about the Balrog. The Balrogs are basically on par with all the wizards. They're you could say about the same level of power and whatnot. And
weren't they created specifically to fight the wizard people, which are kind of like angels in this universe, kind of thing?
Kind of. Yeah, the wizards are essentially angels, and so you got your fallen angels essentially, and some of those are Balrogs, some of them are people like Sauron, etc. And this isn't 100% accurate, so I wouldn't, if anyone's going to complain about this, whatever, but they're essentially the same power. And they go down there when they go into the mines of Moria, and Gandalf in the books plays out a little differently. Like he senses the Balrog before it even makes any noise, because it completely covers him in shadow. If I were to give a visual description, it's kind of like what the Dementors do to Harry Potter when they just are around. he knows it.
Okay.
And like and he's trying to like fight that off. And Gandalf, when they're running away in the books, is like firing spells at him, and the Balrogs counterspelling them, like very effectively. He's like basically, in like D&D terms, he's taking no damage. He's like, yeah, you're not hurting me, and they get to that bridge where they fall, which is one of my favorite scenes in all of the movie. But it
is good.
It's a really good scene.
Yeah.
But at that point, the Balrog just looks like a beast in the movies. No, that thing is thinking. It understands every word that Gandalf says.
Very intelligent.
When he's talking to him, it literally is making that Balrog mad. He knows what he's saying, and he's like, I don't give a crap who you are. I want to kill you.
That explains why he's talking to him in the first place. I always thought it was just like, well, you're the only one here, yeah.
Yeah, and it surprises the Balrog when his sword is actually deflected by Gandalf's spell, and that's why he pulls out the whip.
Is it like more powerful or something?
In realistic terms, no, but whips can get around things. Like, imagine putting up a shield. It's just like in any game. Whips tend to get around shields and whatnot. They don't do as much damage, but they tend to get around.
They've got a bit more flexibility in their usage.
Plus, if he does crack that thing on something, usually it breaks it.
So, you're clearly more of a Lord of the Rings fan than I am, which is great. Awesome. I have a question. So we know about Sauron the White, Gandalf the Gray, Radagast the Brown.
Saruman's the white. Sauron's the main bad guy. Just
what did I say?
Yeah, you said Sauron.
Their names are similar.
Their names are so similar. I do it all the time.
All right, fair enough. I apologize, but are there any other colors out there?
There's two blue wizards. Cool. They are very impactful in, I believe, the Second Age, in that they basically snuck into Mordor, and without anyone really knowing except for Saruman, they cause a lot of havoc behind the scenes that most people don't know about. Okay. And the only reason I know this is I watched a video like a month ago about it. It just happens to come up in conversation.
See, I've always wondered, because that's the only one between The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings movies that we haven't met.
Yeah.
Well, the two blue.
Yeah.
And after that, in the Third Age, it's assumed, not really known, that they just actually went back and kind of got corrupted themselves. There's no real mention of it that I can say, but
it's just
they
a
wield one of the rings of power? Or?
No, the wizards didn't get any of the rings of power.
Well, I mean, I assume because most of them are human. Are there dwarven wizards?
No. Well,
the wizards aren't human. They actually come from like another dimension. All of the wizards, all like Sauron, Morgoth, his former leader, the Balrogs, they're all from another dimension.
Yeah, they're like we were saying earlier about angels. That's kind of what we meant. They don't belong on Earth, Middle Earth.
Yeah. The only person that belongs on Earth that has powers like that, really, the elves have a lot of magical power, but what's that weirdo guy? He has a lot of power in his own area, but other than that, he has no power. But he's not mentioned in the movies at all. But in the books, he's kind of an influential figure early on. Not so much later, but Tom Bombadil, that's his name.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, I heard about him.
So
yeah, he's in his own area. Like if Sauron or any of them came to his area, he would dominate them. Once he leaves his area,
he's worthless.
Yeah.
No.
Like in fact, it's likely that had they given Tom Bombadil the ring, it would have no corrupting effect on him whatsoever while he was in his area. That's how powerful he is assumed to be. Is that he's over that? It's like, why would I even want this crappy ring?
Yeah, I'm obviously better.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is, he's not arrogant or prideful or anything. In his area, he just, I'll do whatever I want, and
I can get that. I mean, if you were basically a god over a small area, yeah, I really wouldn't want to leave or need anything else.
Him and his wife both are kind of like that. His wife has a lot more influence on like plants and stuff, while he tends to deal with people. Yeah.
He just saw the one ring and was like,
whatever, I could do better than sleep.
I'm cool.
So
I ain't hungry.
Well, I gotta say, this has been a lot of fun, and I hope our listeners enjoyed it too.
Yeah.
We've been going on for quite a while, and I think they're tired of hearing us.
Yeah, it's not hard to just get sick of hearing our voices.
So, well, I'd like to thank you, Levi, for coming on.
Yeah, it was really cool. In fact, maybe we should eventually make a Lord of the Rings episode one day.
I'll probably do a lot more research before that, though.
Yeah,
I will.
We will too. We'll at least get him to watch all the movies.
Because after this, I can't seen all the. Oh wait, I missed a Hobbit movie.
There you go.
Fair
Also, I was thinking right beforehand, watch the animated ones because I do enjoy those.
Oh yeah, totally.
So, well, I hope you guys enjoyed listening. And once again, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Patrick.
And Levi's waving bye, I promise.
Yeah.
Well, Alleyway Conversation, we will see you next time. Hey everybody, Andrew from Alleyway Conversations here. Just letting you know we do have a Patreon page and we would love to have you join. Whether just to look for updates, release schedules, or if you'd like to support us, we would be happy with anything and everything you can do for us. I know me and Patrick would really appreciate it. Thank you and have a wonderful day.